What's up, people? So I kind of don't want to sit here and record this, but I kind of also too lazy to go anywhere. So here we are. Sitting on my back porch. You can probably see if anybody's nosy enough. You can like zoom in with my glasses and like see all the surroundings. I'm kind of just peeking through my laundry room doors right here. I chill out here every so often. It's kind of like my little chill spot, but for some reason, actually, I'll tell you what the reason was. Uh, Came across a picture, and this picture had a statue. It had the King David statue carved by Michelangelo. It had that like I don't know, it was in like some safety protected like encasing that they said they had put over it during like World War II's to make sure that it didn't get destroyed from bombings or something like that. And for some reason that triggered me. I was like, I feel like learning about world history. I guess because World War II is significant. Then that statue is from the Renaissance era. So I'm like, I don't know, just had me think about like two different periods of time. And I don't know. Somehow I was just like, I need to go study some world history. Like it just like snapped in my brain. So I'm like, okay, let's go. Just I don't know. So I went and I got clicked through a bunch of websites, found a couple. I just basically just went over like a big old uh, um, overview of world history, and I have a lot to say about it. Okay, so the first thing I'll say about it is that I think studying world history is great for kind of finding a sense of direction. Okay, because you can kind of see the progress that's been made, and you can kind of see the you know direction that mankind is going. And so naturally you're probably like, I mean, we're in that right now, and so it's already like a direction. I guess there's a momentum, maybe, I don't know, but there's definitely a direction. And you get a sense of that studying world history. And I think a lot of people probably need that, so I highly suggest it. Um, Something. I mean, I'll tell you the truth. Every time I study world history, it helps me. Like I said, first of all, a sense of direction, but it kind of helps me set goals. I'm like, okay, like it helps me see like the overall progress of mankind, and I'm like, okay, well, I see what's happening, so like, and here we are, and I'm like, where do we need to go now? And it kind of just, I'm telling you, for me, it sets me up, and it's it's been a almost like a determining factor in my life for a while, just because like I'll study history, get that sense, um, and also yeah, there's that. It's also the fact that there's a lot of people in history that I admire, and I look at as like almost like role models, and I guess honestly, I kind of look to be kind of like them. So a lot of people have done significant things to help, you know, progress mankind, I guess, or just studying that world history, I can kind of see that, each person, like what they did, how they contributed, whatever, and so yeah, I see that. I'm like, okay, well, I want to be a person like that. You know what I'm saying? And so yeah, I kind of model myself after a lot of people that I admire. from history, and but also I kind of just do things my way, kind of just I am my own person, I have my own personality. I live in this time, it's a different time, and a bunch of different influences now as opposed to what people had in the past, and and I'm my own person at the end of the day. If anything, I want to express my creative side as well. And so yeah, there's that. So yeah, a lot of people in history I admire. It's kind of it's almost like it sets you up to understand. Like I said, it helps you get direction. And I guess what I was gonna say was like a lot of stuff I've already done has been, I guess you could say inspired by, you know, studying world history, but it's almost just like sparked by it, you might say. Because you get that perspective, and then you're like, oh, okay, here's what I can do. And honestly, I think it's something I need to refresh on. I need to just keep it in mind, like, as much as possible. Like, understand. I just keep that perspective, I guess. Anyway, so with all that being said, I'm kind of trying to be quiet because it's kind of, I don't know, it just feels like I should be quiet. No, but with all that being said, that perspective's cool, man. It really helps you get a sense of the changes that have occurred, like what we're part of. You can see like the transformation of society, kind of. One thing I was gonna say. Actually, there's probably a lot of things I was gonna say, but I'm just gonna jump into them. However, one thing I noticed was that a lot of people they always seem to think relative to each other. But that's the thing. A lot of the people that are famous aren't just people that thought. No, they're people that. Hold on. Sorry. Someone's walking by. Sounded like they're about to be loud. So yeah. The people who are famous are not people who just thought, but they're people who made their thoughts known, who made their views known, or that did something, whatever it might have been. But it seemed like the theme was like, it was almost like a step-by-step gradual transformation throughout human history. And it seemed like each progressive step was like built upon the last, almost, to some degree. It seemed like there was some what do you want to call it, retrograde action going on. But generally speaking, it seemed like a lot of the famous people, thinkers and stuff, it seemed like a lot of them would like take a general premise and then like change it by 1 degree, and that was like their claim to fame. Like they said, here's this one improvement to this last thing, and I'm like, that's cool, but I'm kind of thinking to myself like, dude, like, I can think like 1,000 degrees like beyond what I see. I already kind of do. A lot of people these days, they kind of think of me like as a weird guy, and I mean, it is what it is. I mean, I'm different than a lot of people. To be honest, I kind of embarked upon my own like journey of discovery, explorative, freaking trek, whatever you want to call it. But yeah, so I got my own opinions about a lot of things, and I could take it. I don't gotta go, one step beyond what's apparent. You know what I'm saying? I can go like 1, 2, 3, 4. I can like take that path and I come back and take another. I can like make a whole. I can just explore. You know what I'm saying? Anybody can. And I don't know. So I'm just thinking like, damn, like I felt like I sensed a lot of limitation with that. It seemed like a lot of hold on, hold on. Sorry, got distracted again. Um, so yeah, I definitely sensed a lot of limitation, you know, with the whole like one step progression type stuff. I don't know. I mean, it wasn't everybody, but it seemed like that's like the general. See, the thing is, I think what the individual famous people represented, especially with the one step at a time type thing, was a gradual progression of society's um, thoughts, progressing one step at a time. And, there being one individual person every given step, who either promoted a certain, new ideology, which was one step ahead, or was just like a person who was accepted, um, having put forth a new idea. Give me one sec. Yeah. So that's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking it was like each individual that was kind of like noted. I was looking at like a whole timeline, and I kind of like dug in different periods, and I just got a general overview. But it seemed like the individuals were noted for probably popularizing a certain idea at whatever given time. So, there could have been people way before who were thinking of the same stuff, or who even like had talked about it. But at any given time, the people who were noted in that kind of timeline were probably the people who brought those ideas to the forefront, and like I said, popularized them, and or were accepted, or I guess you could say got them to be accepted. You know what I mean? And I think, like I said, it was like an overall like progression that you can see of like the ideology of man almost, and so I'm thinking about that. I'm like, I don't know if I have any claim to fame like that, for one, but two, I just go out there, bro. I just like think and like throw ideas out there, because it's just, why limit myself? Like, why stay occupied on one little thought or like thing? What, like, I feel like it you know what I've learned, actually? I'll tell you the truth. What I've learned that people, the collective, takes a while. Okay, and it's kind of like a tree growing. It's like you can't force it to grow any faster than it's gonna grow. But what you can do is you can kind of like lay out a path for it. You can like set it up a certain way, put the light source in a certain direction. You can like, I don't know, like bend it a certain way, and it'll kind of grow the direction you want. And that's kind of what I understand. I'm like, okay, like, I can go ahead and think up like 1,000 things, be in a different world of thought, like philosophically, whatever, and like I could be 1,000 steps ahead, and I'm not gonna sit there and wait for people to catch up. I'm like, they'll catch up eventually. But what I've already done is kind of like, I guess you could say, like blaze that trail and almost like marked it down for people to follow. So like, I'm pretty sure eventually people will kind of like catch up, And it's more like an I can explain it. It's kind of like whenever somebody like discovers something scientifically, like let's say like DNA, at first it was just like a few people that understood it, then more people, and eventually it became common knowledge. It takes a while for the collective to catch up. You see what I'm saying? And so like every new progression will start with like one person or a little group, and then the whole world has to catch up before it becomes like basic knowledge. You know what I'm saying? And I know that takes a long time, so I'm not even like hoping or waiting, or you know what I'm saying, like, and honestly, there's people who live and die without understanding certain things. So I'm not like I'm not too concerned with like everybody knows them. I guess what matters is like, like the populace, like whatever is like a popular movement. And that's what I was saying. Like with each individual, they seem to be like the people who like probably popularize certain movements or certain ideas or whatever. Even like musicians and artists. I mean, just all types of stuff like that. They're always the people who popularized it, and they were like that was like the claim to fame. So I'm kind of thinking like I don't really have anything like that in particular. Do I? I don't know. I don't know. I don't know if I actually care. I'm such like a multifaceted thinker that I'm just like I don't feel like staying kind of like I said, I don't want to be occupied with like one thing. That's why I make videos, because like I can record it and it's like boom, it's talked about it, one and done, boom. Sometimes I go over the same subject a couple times, but I mean, I just don't feel the need to like, life is bigger than like one thing. You know what I'm saying? And honestly, if anything, I guess what I do is I look at like a biological, almost like universal evolution that's occurring, and I can see mankind like in that field. If anything, I guess that's my idea. I have no idea, but I guess what I was kind of trying to say by saying people are kind of limited a little bit, seem like they're limited. I guess what I was kind of trying to say was like, it seems like a lot of the growth, the gradual development of the collective ideology, whatever, it seemed like it was always like relative to itself. And I'm kind of thinking more like in like just the natural, biological, scientific almost maybe type of way. And I think maybe at some point, like the collective might bust out of the one step process of one step gradual ideological development. And I think maybe if the point can get across, we can come to see the whole process of life with learning and the collective evolution and everything as part of a universal natural process of, like, I guess you call it like universal evolution. And if we could just see that and understand these processes, I think it's cool. Anyway, let me pause this. I have to do something. Hold on. Alright, I'm back. So yeah, I mean, that's kind of where my mind is. My mind is, I can see the whole process of like I said, like the universal evolution. I can literally see like the whole universe, like, and that's using a lot of science and knowledge that was afforded to me by a lot of these famous people in history. And but I could basically just see it. I could see, kind of a linear progress with evolution, life and everything, and even within our human sphere of I guess growing technologically and stuff like that, knowledge wise, behavior wise, technology wise, all of that. I can see that as part of evolution. It's a gradual process of the collective evolving, and I can just see that. It's just like, I guess a lot of people, what they talk about is kind of I think that's my brother right there. I think give me a sec. Sorry. So I think what people do is kind of think in that almost linear fashion relative to, oh no, that's not what I was gonna say. Never mind. I remember what I was gonna say. I was gonna say a lot of people think of evolution in a sense of like biological genetic diversity type evolution, but there's what I call behavioral evolution. And I've talked about this before. Um, had to sneeze, it went away. Um, anyway, yeah. So a lot of people think about evolution in a sense of biological genetic diversity, whatever. But yeah, something I talk about is behavioral evolution, and that's just it's kind of the collective evolution of society. Like one thing I'd say is like how your body has a bunch of cells, and like they all like only have a lifespan of like maybe a couple weeks or so, and they're refreshed every so often, but the collective remains. It's kind of like in society there's the individuals in society, but then there's this collective infrastructure, uh, knowledge base, all that stuff that is passed on generation after generation and built upon. And that's what I call like the collective organism of mankind, kind of. And with that you can see that gradual progress of that building, of knowledge, of ability, of know-how and ability. You can see all that, and I see that as part of like the universal evolution, the universal progress. It's part of a linear progress of the universe as far as we comprehend. And so yeah, I see all of the processes of man being a process of nature. And that's kind of what I'm saying. If people can take that leap from thinking relative to themselves and take that leap to understanding ourselves, the collective, as part of nature, part of the universe, you know what I'm saying, part of a much bigger organizational structure, then yeah, I think it opens a lot of doors of thought, and I guess you could say degrees of freedom and just levels of understanding, and that's just where I'm at, with my own thought. I'm just like, sometimes I get caught up in like my little personal drama. Sometimes I get caught up in the world drama of the day. Sometimes I go study world history and I look at what happened back then, and then I get in the human drama that's existed for the last couple 1,000 years. Then I go all the way to like, let's say, human history. That's a couple 100,000 years. Then I go all the way to like biological understanding of our planet. I'm like, okay, there's a couple billion years of evolution, cool. And then I go all the way to the universe. I'm like, okay, so that's multi-billion years. And at the end of the day, I realized that, all of those are kind of relevant, because, you got to deal with your personal issues, and then there is the present, and then there is the recent history we're part of, and, so on and so forth. And it's here. We're part of that. We're part of that history. Like, that's real history. It's a real, tangible, physical progression. You know what I mean? Of I guess you could say the universe, and we're on this one planet, this one rock, orbiting this one star, in this one galaxy. You know what I'm saying? Like, we got a lot of progress to make, not only with our understanding, but basically like familiarizing ourselves with the bigger world around us. It's not just planet Earth, you know what I'm saying? And like, I feel like we're relatively small, and that's why it's funny, because a lot of people, they stay consumed with their like immediate drama, and it's like, and then some people think they've like, they're superior because they are worldly and look at the world, and then some people think they're superior because they'll look at world history. Yeah, I'm not gonna say superior, maybe that's not the word for it, but they think they've reached a higher perspective, and I mean, in a lot of cases, I guess they have. Um, I guess the ultimate version of that I can think of would be a universal linear progress, like I said, with the universal evolution. And there could be stuff beyond that even. Like you have to like consider that. Like we have yet to figure out like everything. Honestly, I would say that we're probably in our infancy, with figuring out a lot of, natural physical phenomenon, as well as, I guess universal. We don't know our personal. I don't know. Um, I guess you could say we're in the dark about, you know, the origins of this physical dimension or universe as we know it. You know what I mean? And so there's probably more to learn beyond what we know collectively right now. And so, as much as I'm talking about a universal evolution, blah blah blah, there's very likely something beyond that. And I mean, that's what I'm saying. As much as I just looked at the world history and I'm like, okay, I see all these people and what they did, see this progression of thought, whatever. I'm like, you could just take it to a whole different level. But the thing is, I think the reason certain people are relevant, you know what I'm saying, like are written down in history, is because it is a record of the collective progress of human thought, I guess you could say. And it's good to write that down because that record history is actually part of the infrastructure I was talking about that's passed down generation after generation. That's part of the collective, organism there, and so that's pretty important. But I just see like so many ways you just like blast off like to a whole different level, like just you don't have to like stay like one step, you know, within range of the current collective thought. You know what I'm saying? Like you can just blast off and like think about a whole bunch of stuff, and that's what I do quite often. And I was actually thinking about a few people in history. One person in particular is a dude named Walter Russell. He was actually friends with Nikola Tesla, but Walter Russell, he seemed like a brilliant genius. And actually, Nikola Tesla was quoted saying something like, "You need to like, tuck this knowledge away for 1,000 years because people ain't ready for it." Now, I mean, you see what I'm saying? So it kind of seemed like he was like multi steps ahead, but he seemed like he might have been on to something. I think he actually predicted the existence of a few elements before scientists found them and isolated them in a laboratory, just because he seems to have an understanding of like a fundamental pattern of nature. And like, so me, I study what he's done and I'm like, okay, so that was some prominent stuff. I was just studying like world history, famous people of like the 19th or the 20th century. I didn't see his name anywhere, you know what I mean? No mention whatsoever. And I'm like, like, and so I'm thinking to myself, I guess actually what I really thought right there was like, damn, there's probably some people who did do significant stuff, but, have probably been left out of history, the history books, whatever. And I think really the only people that are in the history books are, like I said, the ones that are almost just like, the ones that represent an idea or a step in that collective progress. It's almost what I feel like. And then but not only, because there are a whole bunch of people that were just like random. Like, look at Socrates. Like he was just kind of like just an overall thinker, But he has his place in the history books, whatever. So I can't. I mean, I'm not saying those are the only people that are in there, but I did see that kind of a theme, that like, it was like a step-by-step progression of thought in the collective, and a lot of those people represented one of those steps. But I guess my whole point here, I guess to summate everything there, is one, studying world history helps you get a sense of direction. Two, you can see the collective progress of our species. And three, really, you don't have to, you can blast off to like a different level of understanding than what the, collective is on right now. I don't know. So yeah, I mean, I guess really the most important takeaway from this is go study some world history, because it helps you get a sense of direction. It just really does. It really, really, really does. It helps you understand what's happening now in a relevant context. You could say, okay, here's what's happening now, all this random drama in the world, and then you could just skip to like, okay, we're part of a universe. But that kind of almost is just like, it almost just dilutes it so much. It almost like renders it meaningless. But if you study world history, if you study the last century of history, and then the world history before that, and then if you just keep it in context in that recent, relevant context, it helps so much. It's just like, oh, like here's what's happening, like, and it just helps you understand what's happening in the world right now with humans and everything. That helps you understand what I call the human drama, even though I don't even like to be too involved with that human drama, because like I said, I see it as like a part of nature. But it does feel good to kind of see like the collective progress of man and the steps that have been taken recently, that are being taken right now, and just seeing those steps. It just helps you understand it. It makes you feel like you almost have a grasp on the situation. You're like, okay, I see what's happening here. Mankind walking along, developing, whatever. It helps you see that collective progress. And so I highly suggest that everybody go study some world history. I suggest you study it, or at least study it once, get a general gist, and then kind of keep it in mind when looking at what's happening in the world right now. Like I said, keep what's happening in the world right now in a relevant context, but not such a just massive context that is like that it just dilutes what's happening now. You want to keep it in a more I don't know, I guess you could say like an astute, more recent, relative context. So anyway, I guess that's all I gotta say for now. That's all I gotta say for now. We'll jump on this stuff later if I can think of anything else. I'm gonna keep this in mind. Like I said, I'm gonna keep the human progress in mind. I'm probably gonna review it, go back to it every so often, just to like remind myself of context. And I'm telling you, it felt good. It just, for some reason, like I said, I looked at that picture of the Michelangelo statue encased in a protective shell or whatnot, and it just snapped in my brain. I was like, I should study some world history. And so I was reviewing. It was probably like only an hour just reviewing, and as long as you review and you keep that relevant context, dude, I'm telling you, it helps you see what's happening now in its proper, I guess, lane, whatever you want to call it. And so yeah, I guess that's all I gotta say for now. I was gonna talk about the collective evolution and progress. I was gonna kind of talk about how the only things that seem to be like really significant in large part was like new innovations, like technologically, because those are the things that really changed the world. Like even if it was like language or the printing press or I don't know, cell phones, internet, like stuff like that. those things seem to make a massive change. Hold on. Those things seem to make a massive change in the world. And I mean, here's one perspective I like to consider. I like to take the what I call the alien perspective, and imagine ourselves being some like super advanced alien race that can go fly around the universe. Do you hear that crappy? Hold on. Sorry. Another random annoyance. Anyway, I like to take what I call the alien perspective and imagine that we're some like super advanced aliens that are like capable of like flying around the universe, and like just imagine we go fly around the universe and we see like tons of super advanced civilizations on different planets, and then we come upon planet Earth. We might look at planet Earth almost like how civilized nations go look at like tribal people who have like yet to like adopt new technologies and be modern. You know what I mean? Because we might not have the type of technology that maybe some super advanced civilizations on other planets might have. And if we were some type of super advanced aliens and we're observing different civilizations on different planets, what I think would be significant in our observations would be, probably technological innovations that, actually seem to change. I guess you could say that would be part of that collective evolution of that species. It's kind of like if we're like watching monkeys in the jungle, and then all of a sudden they start like using tools. Next thing you know, they start building things, and I don't know. I guess using fire and stuff. Like those would be significant things. If they just were doing the same thing for a long time, and all of a sudden they started using tools, we'd be like, whoa, that's new. That's a new change. And so I think probably the most relevant stuff in our species that's happening is a lot of the technological advancement, because that is part of the collective progress, part of the collective evolution, you might say, and building upon that infrastructure. Not only is there a physical infrastructure that exists, but there's also the knowledge base and the know-how, which and there is the physical infrastructure where like we built highways, we built weapons, we built technology that produces energy, stuff like that. So there's that physical infrastructure, but there's also the knowledge base, the know-how, which allows us the ability to create things like that. So those are the most significant things I see: knowledge and actual new technology, based off of that knowledge, and infrastructure. I mean, if we were a super advanced alien species, that was watching this planet, the significant stuff would be, kind of like the technological revolutions that we see. Really, I would say the technological evolution. You know what I'm saying? So, and that really is the progress of the collective organism of man. So, that being said, I just figured that's something to take note of. I'm telling you, man, I think out there, bro. I think. Anyway, I think that's all I gotta say for right now, though. So, hopefully, you take my advice, go study some more history, get that recent, relevant context, and but also you can take it all the way to outer space. Like I said, pretend we're some super advanced aliens flying around and checking out different planets and stuff, and imagine what we would think if we saw a whole bunch of super advanced civilizations on different planets, and we came to planet Earth. We'd be like, oh, they're just kind of primitive people that haven't really did much yet, haven't even left their home planet, so you can consider that, and maybe use that as like I said, like a kind of a guide of some sort to help the human collective progress along. You know what I mean? Like, give us something to aspire to. We want to be like one of those super advanced alien civilizations out there, you know, on different planets. You know, whether they exist or not, you know, we can imagine they do, and you know, aspire to be, you know, on that level. So imagine that, set it as a goal, and aspire to be like that. And that being said, man, hopefully y'all get it. It's not hard stuff. See, that's the thing. Like, I blow stuff out the water. I don't think one step relevant. I don't like to stay. I don't even like what I call the human drama. Like, there's politics happening right now. Everything. I'm like, I don't care. Like, I'm not gonna stay thinking like on a super small level. Even, I don't know. Like some people don't even think about like world politics, and like, I see world politics, I'm like, that's super small, trivial crap. Like, you know what I mean? I mean, it's relevant, just like everybody's personal drama in their life's relevant. But I'm just like, that's small. You know what I mean? I like think about way bigger stuff. So I also suggest people do that. And that being said, I think that's all I gotta say for now. I'm gonna let you guys go, and I ain't got much else to say, so that's all. Thank you guys for listening. Peace be with you, and I have nothing to say for right now. Like I said, I'm gonna keep this in mind. I'm probably gonna go back to world history quite often, and just to give me that general reference frame, and keep working with that. And it's inspiring, seeing all those famous people and stuff, things they've done that has helped transform mankind, contributed to the collective. It's inspiring. So yeah, that being said, I'm gonna keep that in mind. Suggest y'all do the same, and peace out. I'm out. Be safe.